Hey there guys, Conceptual Concept 6.9 here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, QB roll footage. So today I am talking about how I was wrong. I have not really liked LPVOs over the years, however I've never made that an official statement. The reason why is I didn't have enough experience or time behind them and enough of a variety of LPVOs to have an official opinion, like a well-educated opinion to share with you guys. So I've kept that quiet because personally, if I don't have time behind it, I'm not going to preach it or talk crap about it. So just moving on, I did not like LPVOs. I had a Trijicon AccuPower first. I was really excited about that optic. I got it on clearance though, and I got it right as the Credos were rolling out. I think I got it for $350, $400, which is well under cost. And it was because newer, better technology was coming out. It's an old generation of scope, so it did not serve me very well. It was heavy. It was 1 to 4 power, didn't have a great reticle on 1 power, not daylight bright, multiple downsides to that optic. And I found that trusty ACOG top red dot mounted option to be a superior option, just in my opinion. It had a better eye box, it had a better field of view, and I could shoot it faster because at 1 power I wasn't searching for the reticle because I was running a red dot. So didn't really like that. I sold it because, you know, it was old technology, it wasn't good. So moving on to the newer LPVO that I ran, I got an NX8 about 4 years ago. It's considered the top tier. It is a Night Force optic, right? And I was super jazzed. It was a really lightweight optic, really small profile for a 1 to 8. And I was really excited to run it. But the NX8 had serious limitations. So the main one was the eye box, especially once you got past 6x. And I would dare to say even 5x was tough to get behind. The 8x was borderline unusable, even on a bench, pressing down, shooting at range. If I breathed wrong, I would lose sight of my reticle, and I just found it terrible. Now, I've heard Night Force has fixed this issue since, and maybe it's a better optic now. I will say that the 1x was excellent. It was probably the best 1x of any LPVO I've even been behind, not much less had time behind. It was daylight bright. It was overall really good 1x, but it still had the downsides of an LPVO at 1x. Now there's some serious positives for it too, but it had the downsides of an LPVO, and really it wasn't user friendly. It wasn't comfortable past 4 to 5x on magnification. So again, move back to my trusty ACOG red dot combo, which I've been running for quite a while. So that kind of soured me to it. So I started just investing in ACOG RD combos, and so the TA02, which I'm sure your favorite YouTuber has a video about this optic, but this is the best ACOG to buy at the moment. I've been running the snot out of this optic. I love it. It is excellent. It fixes all the problems of the old ACOG, only adds a couple ounces of weight because you're running a AA battery and there's extra material needed for the housing and circuitry for that. But it moves the red dot forward, and that is the biggest issue with the fiber optic ACOG. But this is the best ACOG in my opinion, period. And yeah, so I've been running this for quite a while in lieu of an LPVO. Now, when the ACOGs aren't working for me, I will run something like an MPVO like I have on the SIG 716i with a red dot on top. I ran that for quite a while on my SPRs, and it worked really well. It gave me a lot of the capabilities of an LPVO. In fact, better reticles at range than most LPVOs, because LPVOs are trying to compensate for, you need a usable reticle at 1 power and you need something you can use at max magnification as well. So there's compromise there. Some people do it better than others, but generally something like a primary arms 2.5 to 10x GLX or that Trijicon Credo that I just showed you will afford you a little better options. So One benefit too is it's got a larger objective lens, lets more light in. Typically the glass is a little clear. Typically you'll have parallax adjustment. So benefits to that, and you have your red dot. So now let's move into the LPVO that's changing my mind, which is the Trijicon VCOG 1-8. Now this is a heavy SOB, but once you include that the mount is included in the total weight, which I think is like 31 ounces, it's weighing fairly similar to most 1-8s, aside from the primary arms PLX and the Night Force NX8. So it's really in that weight class of most LPVOs, which LPVOs are heavy regardless. But I found that it is incredibly usable. It's got a really good reticle at 1x because it has this donut that kind of disappears when you're shooting at range because it widens out when you open the magnification up to 8 power. And it's just usable. It's very simple. I was running it on the SIG 716i. I was making repeated hits on a 10-inch plate at 500 yards, just no problem.
And
nice.
what are you gonna do?
I'm going for the 5 hundo.
Okay. Aim right edge, because that wind. Get it. Get it. Get it.
It's still swinging, not giving it a break. So I liked its long range performance, and let's move on to a few other benefits of it compared to the other LPVOs I've tested. So the eye box is incredibly forgiving overall. So no matter where my eye is on here, I don't typically lose my reticle unless I'm being very, very sloppy, which can happen. And there are downsides to it because if you're shooting from weird positions and you're trying to get behind the LPVO, you might have trouble with that. I found that shooting this from under a car was kind of troublesome compared to a red dot, even a top mounted red dot. So downside to that. So this optics eye relief is consistent through magnification, which is one of the selling points to it. And so I find that I don't have to adjust my stock, I don't have to adjust my cheek weld, I don't have to do anything to shoot at range versus shooting up close. And I'm able to use it in both situations very, very effectively. Again, I personally am of the belief that a scope will never outperform a red dot in terms of shooting from weird positions and in terms of shooting up close and fast. Now, again, you can build up that muscle memory, you can get where you're getting similar times, but again, under stress, under duress, you can be a lot more sloppy with a red dot than a one-time scope because you have that eye box, you have that eye relief. So there are definitely some downsides there, and there's no free lunch. But where I think the LPVO really comes in handy so far, still running this. I'm not going to put a full review on this VCOG yet, but so far I'm loving it. The real upside to this is that you have an all-in-one optic. You don't have to buy a red dot or you don't have to buy a magnifier. It's just one unit on your gun, you're done. Now, passive aiming is a different thing, but you can do all your close to mid-range stuff with this. And so I think it's an excellent option. Now, the other big benefit to this compared to a top mounted red dot like I've run on my MPVOs, my 2-10s, or my ACOGs is that you get a solid cheek weld, especially with these AR-15s. And no matter what you say, I can run a top mounted red dot pretty fast, but my recoil control is better with absolute co-witness when I have a solid cheek weld. It's just physics. You have 4 points of contact stabilizing the rifle as you're shooting. You're just gonna hold it more steady. Now, you are making some sacrifices going with the ACOG versus a LPVO or a red dot magnifier in that case, because you're not gonna have a very good cheek weld. Your recoil control will be a little more sloppy. Is it usable? I personally am of the opinion absolutely it is, but is it as good for recoil control? I think it's pretty hard to argue that a high mount or top mount red dot is superior to absolute co-witness or lower 1/3. Now the last option I've been playing with a lot, and I hate to say it, it's really becoming almost my least favorite option, but for cost concerns, is a red dot magnifier. So the red dot magnifier has a lot of weaknesses and a lot of benefits where it is top in class. So it's a balance. Again, no free lunch. The red dot magnifier is king in terms of close range performance. You get that cheek weld, you get the red dot, ease of use and ability to be a little sloppy and still have your red dot in focus and be able to put rounds on target. You also have the affordability of a red dot magnifier. Now you can get really bougie with those. You can get into EOTech or Aimpoint magnifiers, which can cost $500 to $1,000. And you can get into really expensive red dots like Aimpoint T2s and EOTech EXPS3s. So you can really get in the same price range of the rest, but you can also get much lower than everything else with having a quality optic. You can do a HoloSun T2 pattern or even an Ames for 300 or under and a HoloSun magnifier, and you're still good to go. The performance difference isn't that much, and really what you're paying for is, for the most part, night vision compatibility, in my opinion. Aim points are really rugged and solid, but I have several HoloSuns that I've dumped on the ground, I've treated like garbage, and they're still zeroed, they're still holding fine. Now they are made in China, so balance that out for what you will, and if the tariffs go through, we will end up paying more for those. And the last weakness of the red dot magnifier, personally in my opinion, is you have 4 panes of glass and 1 aiming solution. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of glass you got to keep clean, and you've got 2 separate optics with different glass clarity stacking on top of each other. So this will give you the poorest image at range unless you're buying a really garbage LPVO, MPVO, or prism optic. So you'll end up with a weaker system, in my opinion, for range. However, the close range, top in class, best. And night vision performance for passive aiming, arguably, again, top in class. So everything's a give and or take, but I was really surprised at how much, once I got this Trijicon VCOG, I actually really loved it. And it's starting to become one of my primary optics. Now, I am 100% sure there are dozens of other solid LPVOs on the market, and I had 2 bad ones that kind of soured my opinion on LPVOs, and that's again why I have never had a solid opinion on them, because official opinion on them, because hate to say it, I just didn't have the experience and time behind them to have that. But I was soured by the 2 options I tried, and so I didn't buy one for quite a while. This guy came up on a local classifieds for $1,000, which is crazy cheap for a VCOG. It's less than half price, and I was like, fuck it, let's try it. And it has really changed my mind. It's converted me to where I'm like, okay, LPVOs are solid. But last thing to mention, and this stands for the MPVOs too, is they're not as durable as I'd argue red dots and ACOGs are. We all know ACOGs are bomb proof, and red dots for the most part are too. LPVOs are a lot more complicated, there's a lot more going on in them, so they have a higher likelihood of breaking. Now, something like the VCOG, it's a very low likelihood. T-Rex Arms did a really good video on this, but they definitely can break a little easier than an ACOG or a quality red dot. So take it for what you will. But this is just kind of my rant. I was wrong about LPVOs. I think they are a good option. I have some time behind a quality one now, and I love it. So I'll talk to you guys next time.